Hi, I'm Natasha Finch. I am a small business advisor at Meridian Credit Union.
And I'm David Lepka, a senior small business at Meridian Credit Union, and we're here today to talk about some CEBA loan inquiries and questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much for coming. So I just have a few questions here, and then of course you can take it away when it gets there.
Sure.
So we know that there was a 1-year extension to the CEBA program repayment deadline. What deadline was extended?
It was the final date initially, so the initial date to pay the loan back was December 31st, 2025. So they extended that by 1 year to December 31st, 2026.
The other thing that they changed was originally it was going to be December 31st of this year that you could pay back the principal portion of the loan and get that forgiveness. But now they changed that, not as long, they changed it for a month, or less than a month, I guess, to January 18th. So that's the deadline to be eligible for that forgiveness or to pay that back.
So is everyone eligible for that January 18th deadline, or is there some
So
qualifying factors?
there are some qualifying factors. So all of that was predetermined by the government. So the government has already determined that if there's a business that's not eligible, they would have already been contacted for that. But for the most part, unless you weren't eligible for the CEBA loan to begin with, which was the case with some businesses, then you are eligible. So.
Okay. So then, in terms of the forgiveness in general, were there generic forgiveness terms, or?
Generic terms.
So there are two. So the original CEBA loan was for $40,000, and then they announced an expansion for another $20,000. So you'll see some people or some businesses with $40,000 of a CEBA loan, some with $60,000. So if you have the $40,000 and you didn't get the expansion $20,000, $30,000 is repay. Well, $10,000 is the forgiveness portion, and $30,000 you'd have to repay back. If you got the expansion, then $40,000 is repayable, and the report, or sorry, $20,000 is the forgiveness portion, and $40,000 you'd be required to pay back.
Perfect. That answers the next question. Brilliant.
Okay.
Does the CEBA loan forgiveness need to be reported on income statements when filing?
I did ask an accountant, and it is a taxable amount that they do put on your financials. So the forgiveness portion part, yes. How they calculate that, that's the area of the accountant expertise. Yeah.
I think that's all the predetermined ones, but I know that you came with a few other notes for us that are key.
Yeah, so do you want to touch on what happens if the principal's not repaid and if it goes into repayment?
Brilliant.
With those dates there?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So the repayment terms, it was 0% on the loan they initially borrowed if it was paid by the deadline, right? So the deadline right now, those that qualify would be January 18, 2024. If it's not repaid by the 19th of January, then it does convert into a 5% non-converting, non-amortizing term loan. So it's not like a fixed payment. You have a 2-year window to pay the total loan back, which includes the forgiveness portion. And that date is December 31st, 2026.
So then you wouldn't get the forgiveness. You'd
That's
have to pay
right.
the full amount.
That's
Okay.
right.
Great.
That's right. And I think those were the 2 dates.
Yep. Yeah, and then another thing that Meridian has done is we introduced a CEBA refinance program. So for some of our members that didn't necessarily have that $40,000 or that $30,000, depending on which loan they have, to pay back right away, we introduced a refinance program that allows them to, they would have a loan with us, so it would go from the government to us, basically, and that would allow them to get that forgiveness. So we'd give them a loan for $40,000, for example, and then they would have to repay back that over a few years, but then they still get that $20,000 extra to get the forgiveness with the government. Yeah, that's been a pretty successful rollout for the most part for us. So a lot of our members are happy with that, and we're getting a lot of interest. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money to come up with right away, and we understood that, so try to do something at least to help.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you for having us.